Quishbilly Huddersfield Town! The most famous goal of Quishbilly's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is! Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Droopy and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed! Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome to the Andy Takes That Chance to Warm Up episode 54. Brady is bedbound at the moment, so I'm taking over from him, but I will try and channel my inner Stephen Merchant to try and keep you abound with ropey banter galore. Joining me, joshing around, as Brady would say, it's Josh Phillips. You all right, Josh?
Hi, Matt. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Not bad. So Brady's got COVID, hasn't he? So he's bedbound at the minute, so, he's got his little bell, hasn't he, ringing, and, he rang his little bell earlier and said, Matt, can't do it. Can you step in? And here we go. So if this is a terrible version of the warm-up, then blame Brady still. So that's what people usually do. So happy days. So before we get into things as usual, this episode is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Congratulations, by the way, to James Snow and Denny Ledger. They are the leaders of our fantasy football leagues at the halfway stage. Both have won a Magic Rock Brewing fan pack, courtesy of Magic Rock Brewing, obviously. So if you guys want to take a look at what Magic Rock do, in terms of the fan packs, you can have a look online at the Huddersfield Town shop, shop.htfc.com, or have a look on magicrockbrewing.com, where you can get some alcohol, and use AHTTC10 for 10% off at checkout. So thanks to those guys. Right, Josh, the Terriers entertain Swansea this weekend. Ticket sales sound great, with perhaps a crowd heading towards 20,000 there. Just depends on how many Swansea bring over. Which might be interesting because obviously they can't watch football in Wales at the minute, so maybe more will be tempted to go to an away game with the home games being ruled out for them. There's a good feeling in the air. Dean Hoyle is back. Cheap tickets are back. Winning games is back. I don't know why that happened. Head-to-head. Shall we have a look at the head-to-head versus Swansea? Town and Swansea have met 59 times before, with Town winning 26, 16 draws and 17 wins. Huddersfield have never won a cup game against Swansea by a little glance. I had a look through this11.com as a little anomaly.
Good job, it's not a cup game then.
Yeah. Swansea won the encounter early this season 1-0 in a bit of a bore fest. But I'm really looking forward to this one, Josh.
Yeah, so am I, yeah. Especially got tickets in the White Rose bit for this Saturday as well, courtesy of our outgoing chief executive, Mark Devlin. One of his last acts in the post was to sort me out on them tickets. So.
Look after his mate, Josh Phillips. Is this what he did?
Yeah, that's what he did. Even though he knew he was leaving, he still sorted me out. But yeah, should be good. It's going to be, as you say, full house. Just hope we don't do the usual Town thing of disappointing when it gets all built up to in front of the crowd. But Swansea, obviously they're in bad form. That form's got to come to an end at some point. But hopefully it won't be on Saturday, and we can get another win.
Yeah. So before we get into things, Brady, and you usually like to play a little game, don't you? So let's go to guessthE11.com. Not guessthE11.com. Guess the 11 game. I don't know what planet I'm on today.
We've not started a website for it
yet. You should do. Right, so we don't have anyone else with us, do we? So this is just going to be you versus you, Josh. Guess the 11. Town played Swansea on the 24th of April, 1994, in the Autoglass final. Town's first Wembley appearance is 1938, when they were screwed over by a referee in the last minute of extra time. Still annoyed at that. Can you name the 11 that started the game in 1994, not the FA Cup final in 1938? So I'll give you some hints because you were possibly not quite born or conceived at that point.
3 months old.
3 months old.
I don't remember the game, I'll be honest.
I'll let you... So we've had two of them on the podcast that have been in the starting lineup, and two of them on the bench. So we had 3 subs at that point, and 2 of the subs were also on the bench as well.
Right,
so, right then, let's see how many you can get.
Steve Francis.
1.
Boothie.
2.
Ronnie Jepson.
Nope.
Dyson.
You know, I'm gonna mix this up actually. Dyson's a no. I'm gonna allow you 3 incorrect answers, but obviously I can't do that after you've just named 2. So I'll let you have 3 incorrect answers now before you lose. We need to put some kind of jeopardy in this.
Okay.
Can't just Brady this, can we?
Tom Cowan.
Yes, Tom Cowan. That's your 3rd.
Crosby.
No, he came the season after.
Rodney Rowe.
No, Rodney Rowe didn't make the 14.
Kieran O'Regan.
No, it's too late for Kieran. Is that so? The 2 people that have appeared on the podcast, because actually 3 up now, Josh.
Bullock.
So Darren Bullock, he's 1, and the other one was Pat Scully. So
yeah, of course.
And the 2 subs, well, there were 3 subs, one of them being Kevin Blackwell, and the other 2 subs have appeared on the podcast, and they're Peter Jackson and Ian Dunn. So yeah, Steve Francis, Chris Billy, Tom Cowan, Phil Starbuck, Pat Scully, Graham Mitchell, Richard Logan, Phil Robinson. I would have never thought you would have got in a million years. I think Phil Robinson wasn't bad, but he's quite forgetful because everyone will think of the 94-95 Wembley team, whereas Phil Robinson wasn't really part of the 94-95 team, so I don't think he was part of it at all. So, you know, he's quite forgettable from that era in that respect. Richard Logan, obviously, with his long throw, and he scored on the day, didn't he? The header from the corner. And the man of the match for Town that day was Simon Baldry. He was really outstanding that day.
Oh, I was going to guess Baldry.
Yeah, and then he scored the last goal, the first in the last game at Leeds Road, and then it sadly seemed to sort of go downhill a bit for Simon from there with injuries and whatnot. But yeah,
he
so that's
around a while though, because he was playing when I started going, 2002, 2003ish. So.
Do you know what? About 2008-9ish, he was doing the Masters football. You know what he used to have on Sky, and he was unbelievable. Yeah. He was unbelievable. He was better at that than what he was when he played for Town in the 90s. Okay, let's move on to brass tacks. Swansea are coming up. So this is the bit where we look at Swansea in a little bit more depth, don't we? And we start picking key players from them. An interesting point, I think, for this game is that at the start, in the summer, Milton Keynes Dons, that fake team from down south who my ex-boss supports, so I'll give him some stick for that from time to time. They had 2 goalkeepers on their books, Andrew Fisher and Lee Nichols. Both will be in the opposite goal this weekend, which is going to be interesting. We'll be able to see why Andrew Fisher was able to keep Lee Nichols out last season. I think the reason really was that he's supposed to be really good with his feet. So Russell Martin, the ex-MK Dons boss, has brought him to Swansea. Swansea really seem to score all of their goals really from open play. 92% have come from that. I've looking at key players. Ethan Laird was a really good player for them, but they've lost him and he's gone to Bournemouth, so that's left a little bit of a hole at right back for them. But Ethan Laird looked a really outstanding player earlier in the season. But there's 2 players stand out for me, Josh, and I think it's quite obvious because they play so much in open play, which it requires somebody to unlock defences in open play, and the man that does that is Jamie Patterson with 1.5 key passes per game. People will know him at Huddersfield because of his little spell in David Wagner's first season, where I thought he was quite decent for us, and he would have been part of the promotion team if Nottingham Forest hadn't sacked most of their staff and had someone to pick up a phone over that summer. So as it turns out, we brought in Casey Palmer and Izzy Brown, and the rest is history. But Jamie Patterson to Joel Pirot is the combination that Huddersfield Town need to be aware of, and I think for me they are the 2 outstanding players of that team.
Yep, I have to agree with that. They were the 2 that I'd written down, so stole my thunder there, Matt. But 2 obvious shouts. Patterson, I noticed he didn't play at the weekend against Southampton in the Cup. I don't know, is he on? He's a permanent player at Swans, isn't he? So maybe he had an injury or.
Yeah. Do you know what? I will quickly have a look at my Gaffer team. Gaffer is the Championship Fantasy Football, where I'm in 8th place in the Andy Takes That Chance League. And
out of how many?
I'll have a look in a minute. I'm not sure, to be honest. but it has been hijacked by quite a lot of professional fantasy league players. So I think out of the top 8, I think only about 3 of them are Town fans. So technically, I'm third really when it comes to Town fans. But it should let me know if Jamie Patterson's injured. If he is injured, it would be quite handy, I think.
I'm just reading out. It might have been COVID absence.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. It was COVID absence. So he probably will be back, won't he, for this game?
Yeah, so you sit 7 days, really, but it depends on any after effects. But the latest strain seems to be a bit milder, doesn't it, for people? So, Jamie Patterson, there's nothing against him here to say that he's expected to be missing. So, potentially Jamie Patterson will be back, Swansea are going to be... I think Huddersfield fans in particular will not like Swansea. Swansea are a very methodical, slow, possession-based team, aren't they? And they're very sort of hard to watch for the those who love to shout "Get it forward." They will go backwards. They will use the goalkeeper, and they will play a lot of triangles between the goalkeeper and the centre backs. I think at times they can have 70% possession, and I know we don't really like that in Huddersfield, do we? We like to sort of get on the ball, get quick, get in people's faces, and be really aggressive. So it's going to be a game for patience, really, isn't it? So in that scenario, what do you expect from Huddersfield, and who do you expect to shine really for Huddersfield against Swansea, or who do we need to shine before for us to be successful?
Yeah, well, start from the last game against last home game against Forest, they lost 4-1, but had 75% possession.
It's mad, isn't it?
Tells its own story there, doesn't it? They will pass it around at the back. The question is, do we let them have it just up to a certain point, maybe up to the halfway line, maybe even, or do we try and press them and get in the faces? So that's a decision for Carlos to decide. Maybe a bit of both. Maybe we press at certain times as a unit, and then the key will be the transition phase. So when we've nicked the ball off them, then we need to go, because it could be a while before we get the ball again. But if they have that much possession and it's not translating into points, is it really? So they can't be that. They can't be that ruthless. Maybe they're not creating chances. I admit I've not seen it much of them this season, but just going off the stats, it's got to be one of the two, isn't it? Either they're wasteful or they're not very creative going forward. So I think it might be a case of see how the first 20 minutes go for Town, and then it'll depend how we manage the rest of the game from there. Whether we go for it or whether we sort of sit in and just let them have the ball. But it will be interesting, because we didn't do too well against them in the previous game this season. So plenty to be wary of for Town.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the same. So it's going to be, I think at times the game's going to be quite difficult to watch, isn't it? If Swansea are sort of back on the back foot and backpedaling, they'll try and keep the ball in and around their own box, and I think we will probably let them do that to a certain extent, because Swansea, what they're doing is they're looking for a pathway out there into the middle third and then into the final third. So I think Town will probably play their 3-4-3 shape, and the two wide, Helms and Sinani will probably drop back in and make it tough to get into that sort of middle third. So and I think that's where Town will close down the passing lanes, and maybe your front man Danny Ward will look to pester the one of the two centre backs at times, but he may drop in as well. So it'll be an interesting battle, but at times maybe a frustrating one. But which players do you think Town need to perform really to take the win?
Well, based on what we said about Patterson and Pirot, first of all, from a defensive point of view, if Hogg, I think he probably will start. So I'd say Hogg to take care of Patterson when he's cutting in. Probably start on the left, right? So when he's cutting inside, Hogg will need to be in and around him, stop and get in space, and then up top, Pirot. It depends whereabouts he roams, really, doesn't it? Do they normally play a 2 up top, or is it a 1? think it's
usually
normally
plays
just one.
solo, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So it might be. Don't know. It depends if he drift right or drift left, or if he stays central. But I'd say all the centre backs probably need to keep tabs on him, whoever it is. Or if they're going to play one up front, do we change to a back four? Or that'll depend as well. Yeah,
are you in an office there? It sounds like an office phone. Does that ringing it, trilling away in the background?
Doorbell, it's horrendous. But yeah, I'd say Hogg and all the centre backs who play really will be key, and then just taking our chances when we get them.
Yeah, so I've gone for. I've had a look at Swansea, and they look like they can be susceptible from set pieces to me. 29% of the goals they've conceded this season are from set pieces, including penalties. So for me, Sorba Thomas is obviously going to be the key man. Sorba, we saw him back to form, and against Burnley last week, he was outstanding, wasn't he, in his little cameo? So maybe we'll see Sorba back, delivering the ball across the box, and the likes of Danny Ward, Pearson, Lees, Colwill if he's fit. I think he's got a bit of a knee injury, Levi Colwill, which hopefully he might recovered from. But if he hasn't, Naby Sarr's a big guy, isn't he? So there's plenty for Sorba to aim at in there, and even Jonathan Hogg's popping up in the last year or so, isn't he, with a couple of headers inside the box. So we've got a little bit of guile and know-how in there. So set pieces for me will be key, as will Sorba Thomas, and it will be interesting to see what he brings to the game.
Controversial one here. If Colwill is injured, I don't like Naby Sarr left of a back three. I only like him in the middle. But I suppose we don't have any other option. Unless really controversial, you could put Toffolo left centre back and play Ruffles left wing back, but that's probably a bit
no.
too...
Do you know what? No, I've suggested that, I think, on the main pod a few times, that Toffolo, and he has dropped. There was a home game where Toffolo dropped to centre back. It might have been Blackpool actually on Boxing Day, where he dropped. And he dropped in, didn't he? He's played there at youth football as well as Harry Toffolo. So I think the problem with Toffolo there at the minute is his crossing has been so good lately that you would lose that. Unless he wanted to do an overlapping centre back thing, but that's not very Carlos, is it? But yeah, that's a possibility. But I've also toyed with the idea of Naby moving him to the middle and Tom Lees moving to the flank. But the problem then is you got a Richard Stearman type situation where Tom Lees doesn't want to have to come across to the flank, does he? Especially on his weaker left foot and play the ball down the line, and that's what Carlos likes, doesn't he? He likes left-footed players in left-footed positions and right-footed in right-footed. So I don't think we'll see that.
Colwill would be a big miss.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. I was listening to the Second Tier podcast, team of the season, which Lewis O'Brien got into, and I was quite surprised that they didn't really mention Levi Colwill for one of the centre back positions, to be honest, because he's definitely been that good. I didn't expect him to be picked, but I expected, when they mentioned 4, 5, 6 afterwards, I thought they may have mentioned him in the running, but. Hopefully he keeps slipping under the radar. He's never going to end up back with us after this season, but you still cling to that just a little bit, don't you? But he has been outstanding.
When we get promoted, he might extend.
And we sign him for 40 million after the Russians buy us and everything. So the next thing to do, Josh, is it's return to the Mac.
Christopher Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend.
De Platter's got the better... Yeah! And Laurent De Platter scored! What a goal, Aaron Moy! An absolute thunderbolt delivered all the way from Australia!
Return to the Mac.
Right then, so everybody's favourite game. Everybody votes for this on Twitter without knowing the context behind it, so it's always fun to see the results. I'll let you go first on this one because I'm toying with 3 for this specific game. So I'll make my mind up depending on who you pick, I think. So I'll let you go first.
All right, well, this kind of a bit for my amusement, really, but I'd like to see Lee Novak running around trying to charge down the Swansea, passing it around the back. I think he'd do a good job of putting them under pressure and make it difficult for them. So I think it'd be funny to watch him run around for 90 minutes, just chasing a ball around the goal. So just for that reason, Lee Novak.
He's retired as Lee Novak, so it might try and get him on the podcast at some point, see if he fancies it. That should be quite a decent one.
Also, if Rhodes comes on after 20 minutes,
yeah,
we know how good they are together up front. Together up front. So
there you go. Rolling back the years, bit of Mick Hucknall there. So that could have been another Brady joke, but Brady's not on here. But never mind. So I went down the set piece route again, and I would absolutely love to see Steve Mounier on the end of a Sorba Thomas corner. I've picked 3. I couldn't make my mind up between Steve Mounier, Andy Booth, and Jamie McComb, because I just thought, for reasons for you as well, Jamie McComb was an absolute monster in the air, wasn't he? And could you imagine, he didn't even have to jump, could you imagine him with Sorba Thomas whipping the ball, and it'd just pretty much stand there like a tree, wouldn't he? And it'd hit him and go in, it'd be outstanding. But I think in the context of Twitter, where we usually post the vote, Jamie McComb would not do very well, and there'll be people who'll be like, "What are you voting for him? What are you bringing him for?" So without the context, I think I'm probably going to go for Steve Mounier. So we'll go Big Steve versus Lee Novak this week is the one. And do you know what? Both crowd favourites, just from a different. It's not quite a different era, is it? But it's the top 10 years apart.
Sort of,
yeah. 8 years apart ish, aren't they? So it'll be interesting to see those. I think it'll be quite close between those two. But there we go. So we'll put that to the.
I feel bad on Danny Ward though. We both picked a striker again, and he's performing.
Yeah, it's not that. Yeah, that's the thing. It's nothing on Danny Ward, is it? It's just for corners. It's like hockey when you watch hockey, and they bring someone on, don't they, for penalty corners and then take them off again. If we could just roll on Jamie McComb for corners and then take him back off, that'd be absolutely perfect. But that'd be a completely different game if you could do that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I was trying to think of a player for this, sort of like a defensive sitting midfielder who's good on the ball, like powerful, physical. And I couldn't think of one. So maybe we've never had one of those.
Darren Bullock.
My time.
Bully. Who else? Kenny Irons he wasn't really powerful, really, but he was good on the ball. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the good teams that we've had. Bully was sort of 90s, wasn't he? And then after that, we had a little bit of a. Craig Armstrong played there for a little bit, but he wasn't particularly good on the ball. No. And then through the 2000s, Kenny Iron, Chris Beach early on. Yeah, we John Worthington was not really strong, but he'd put his foot in, wasn't he? And
he's more of a.
But he was more of a runner. Do you remember Mark Hudson, the first Mark Hudson? I hated him. Absolutely hated him as a player. But anyway, moving on. He wasn't the worst, but you could just tell he had a bit of a big time attitude, and apparently he used to, his favourite chat up line was "I'm Mark Hudson, Premier League footballer." But I think he made like one appearance for Middlesbrough or something like that in the Premier League, and he used to use that as his line. But anyway, Middlesbrough. Yeah. So anyway, enough about him. So we're moving on to You're the Boss. So we're looking at the team. We've really sort of pretty much named our team, haven't we? Sort of going through the key players in many ways. But let's don the Chris Powell flat cap, the David Wagner's glasses, and the overcoat of Neil Warnock. And who do you fancy? There you go. So who do you fancy for this week? You didn't like my little intro there, but who do you fancy for the team, your 11 this week, Josh?
Well, obviously Nichols in goal, Keithley Cannavaro, Tom Lees, and Colwill if he's fit. But if not, I probably would stay conventional and go with Sarr.
He did all right against Burnley, to be fair, didn't he? I thought he was quite decent against Burnley.
Yeah, we'll give him. Yeah, we'll.
He got some stick for the goal against Burnley, but I didn't really think that was his fault. I think people expect him to clear it, but he's only clearing that if he's 11 foot tall in my book, and it kind of loops around him. But
yeah, it's more the Blackpool game that sticks in my mind. He had a bit of a disaster, as you would say. So left wing back, Toffolo, right wing back. Now this is a tricky one actually.
Pippa looked good, didn't he, against Burnley?
Yeah, do you go Pippa and move Thomas forward? I want to do that, but I don't know.
It's Pippa or Sinani, isn't it? The player that you pick.
Yeah, it's good to have choice. Yeah, go on then. I like Pippa, so we'll stick Pippa in. Hogg and O'Brien, and then Thomas, Holmes, and Ward.
Yeah, so that's the same. So there's absolutely no point me going through. I am the exact same, but the only sort of thing I've got is whether you choose Dan El-Sinani or whether you choose Pippa. And to be honest, I'm not sure. So I'm not fussed either way. So yeah, I'm the same. I think that at this stage the team sort of picks itself, doesn't it? Really. Josh Koroma showed up quite well against Burnley, but he's probably got a little bit more to do, you think, before he gets back in the side?
Yeah, like I said, though, it's good to have this competition for places and difficult decisions. Someone's going to be left out on Saturday who probably shouldn't be left out, which is, as I say, a good thing.
Even poor Ollie Turton's just turned his form around it because the first few months of the season looked out of his depth, might be a little bit unfair, but he looked kind of, a sort of a lesser option. And over Christmas, he sort of turned that round a bit, didn't he? And he actually looked quite solid. And now Pippa's back. He's probably going to find himself a bit further down the pecking order when he's probably hit his best period. But I suppose that's
in games where he's played as a right back, right back four sort of position. To me, it seems like when he first came into the team, he came across sort of didn't believe he could play at this level. That's the way he played anyway, sort of within himself. But then last few games, he looks more confident, and he's even obviously defensively is more his game. But even he started having a few little forays forward a couple of times, so that's positive to see. So yeah, but like you say, with Thomas becoming a right wing back now and Pippa coming back, he could find it difficult to get back in the team, especially if the formation stays as it is. But yeah, he's a good option to have on the bench, and he's certainly someone that Carlos likes to bring on to try and shore up the games when we're ahead.
He loves subbing him on, doesn't he? Predictions then, Josh. What are you going to go for in this one?
I'm going to go 1-0 to Town. I think, like you said, it could be quite a frustrating game, but we might nick a goal from a set piece near the end. I'm going to go for Rhodes to score. Actually, it won't be a set piece. It'll be a cross like the one against Blackpool, the one that got disallowed. It'll be like that, but it'll be onside this time.
I'm going for 2-0 to Huddersfield. I think it'll be frustrating, but I think if we nose in front, we'll see the game out because Swansea will have to sort of open up, and I think we'll pick him off second half. I'm going to go for Danny Ward and Matty Pearson again to score. Matty Pearson, I think last time he started scoring goals, they all came in bunches, didn't they? So I'm going to go with that same theory and maybe Matty Pearson but yeah, I can see. I know we said at the start, didn't we? It's like every time we do these kid schemes and what have you, we usually lose. I think last time we win against Middlesbrough, and we were absolutely revolting, weren't we? So, and before the Wagner era, every time we had a crowd over 60, over a certain level, unless it was against Leeds, we would always lose.
One that sticks in my mind when going back a long way against Mansfield at home when we were going for promotion 03-04, and we had a big crowd that day comparatively to the rest of the season, and we got beaten. Although they were pretty good. So,
yeah, Liam Lawrence absolutely ran us ragged, didn't they? They had a good side then. They had Liam Lawrence, didn't they, on the right? They had Williamson, didn't they? The central midfielder who ended up at Sheffield United. And he played against us in the playoff final in 2012 as well, didn't he? They had a centre-back called Reece Day, who absolutely bossed Boothie in the games we played against them, but he never really did anything after that. It's quite strange. And
Junior Mendes?
Junior, yeah, whatever happened to Junior Mendes? They had another striker, didn't they? What was he called? Larkin, yeah. And Wayne Corden. They didn't have a bad side, actually. When you look back, it was quite a decent. Pilkington, the goalkeeper, was all right.
There's another example of us coming up short in front of a expectant crowd, but hopefully we put that right this Saturday. If we win, it's got Reading week after. If we can get 4 or 6 points from these two, then I think we'll get excited then, won't we?
Yeah, and we'll all be knocking on the boardroom door, won't we? Asking for get the checkbook out, make sure we can get up there. But yeah, so I think that's it.
We could end the month in the playoffs and in the last 16 in the FA Cup. So
that's positivity for you. A good way to end the podcast, I think, Josh. Things are looking up at the moment. Hopefully they keep going in that direction, and we'll see you all down at the stadium on Saturday or in Magic Rock before the game.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.